for December 1, the first day of the month. And we promise you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all. Because you need it. They are nuts. It's not you. They have gone cuckoo. Well, that song, our friend Miller Holmes did this song. He did it with AI. I told you we've been playing football at Dunmore. Somewhere in Dunmore, this group of guys, youngies versus oldies, if you're under 30 and over 30, since 1970. And he went to AI and came up with this song. He wrote the lyrics, I guess, and they put music to it. Fabulous. I love that song. I almost feel like playing it every day. But that's our deal. So that was Thanksgiving morning. And then you go to Clark's, and then you go to I went to my mother's house, and I went to Cutie's sister's house. That was just a great day. Friday, home, done. And then Saturday we went out again and went to Atera and enjoyed that bar. Love it, love it, love it. We did that Wednesday night too, by the way. Atera's bar, I just love it. And then went to Jack's Draft House. And it was great. It was really great. Music. There was a singer. She's a McGrath. She used to be a Conaboy. She was so good, I got tears in my eyes listening to her. The voice, the range. I could not believe this is up at Jack's. I couldn't believe it. And most of the crowd was younger than Cutie and I, and Kristen, but so what? It was a blast. That voice was just something off the charts. And then my Sundays, I like to do nothing, so we did nothing, which is good. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving weekend. I hope you had fun. I hope that you got a little bit of turkey in there. I said this. I think about the people, and some of them are friends that don't have the Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving, everybody around the table and who gets the turkey leg and all of that. And I feel for them. But I was talking to Lorraine, and I said, if she does not have that anymore. And I said, well, you know what, though? You have to do, and I did this when the 9 Thanksgivings I was in prison. You think about how great the previous ones were and say, man, I'm so lucky I have those memories. At least that's the way I was able to look at it. And it was really neat. I don't want to say it didn't bother me. That's not correct. I knew they were playing the football game. I knew they were going to Clark's. I knew that my parents had everybody over and all that, those kind. But I said, I got to have that. I tried to look at it that way. Somebody texted, Bob, I returned to Scranton over Thanksgiving weekend. First time in 30 years. No Christmas lights up on Lackawanna, Spruce Street, and Linden and Mulberry Street. Is Scranton, Pennsylvania broke? No, we have a horrible mayor. An absolutely horrible mayor. And the people of Scranton deserve her because she got reelected 2-1 because she was under the Democrat label. So here it is. So you saw that. Crazy. My friend Mark Mayer saying, great tune. Who wrote that? Our friend Miller Holmes wrote it, and then he submitted it to say AI under some program, whatever, some app, and it came up with that song. And I said, wow. Cabinet guy said holiday was great. Cowboys won again. Eagles lost again. That's the cabinet guy. Charles from Scott Township. He said you had nothing to do. Did you at least go to church? Of course. See, I do that. That's a given. And if I don't get to church on Sunday for some odd reason, then I'll go during the week. At least once a week. You got to do that. Great stuff, though. I'm telling you, I hope your weekend was good. I hope your weekend was fun and all of that. We're going to get a little bit of snow tomorrow, not of any real consequence. I know. Don't go running out to get your bread and milk and eggs. Please. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't get all excited. You're going to get a couple inches of snow, and PennDOT and your great DPW guys are going to have it cleared. They will take care of the job, believe me, while they're picking up the garbage. How about that? So I might have to wear the DPW shirt tomorrow. We'll see. All right. Bob Cordaro, WILK. The eponymous program rolls on after these. Buddy Holly, he and the Crickets. They made their television debut on the Ed Sullivan Show. This date, 1957, Murph tells us. They performed their hit, That'll Be the Day. And, of course, before that, we didn't just have the 2000 election that turned crazy. 1824, how about that? U.S. House of Representatives. And we end up with Adams. John Quincy Adams, of course. What was he, the son, nephew, whatever. But that was December 1st. So, you know, that we play for John Perillo, who'll be coming up after 10. We play that We Didn't Start the Fire. And it's true. This stuff's been going on for a long time. Body Shop Guy. We get to hear from Body Shop Guy. I haven't heard from him in a while. He texts in, Bob, every year I stay positive, hoping for a nice holiday season, and every year it gets worse. God bless. I hope that's not true, Body Shop Guy. Come on, man. You're with us. You're with us. This is your large dysfunctional family. We're right here for you. Rich McHale's asking, did I see the video of the member of the press that was not allowed to go to the press conference for that awful, horrible, worst, well, a prime contender for worst governor in the country, Jay Pritzker, the fat rich boy, and Mayor Johnson, who's just a disgusting human being. Anyway, no, I know who it is, though. I did not see that, but he asks very pointed questions, and they hate him, and they try to ban him. Rich thinks it's a violation of freedom of the press. Well, being part of certain types of events and press conferences, it could be considered a privilege, not a right. Because it's not like you can't be there, but asking questions is a privilege, not a right. So it's a close call, but they can't stand up. They cannot stand up to scrutiny, these fools. They are that awful. By the way, we're going to have a book event December 11th. And this event is going to feature two books that you guys like, two authors you guys like. One is a professional writer, and he's awesome, Matt Birkbeck. He's written The Quiet Don. We had him on just recently about another of his books. What is it, The Wicked? A tremendous book set in Jim Thorpe. Of course, The Quiet Don about Russell Buffalino, our local mob don. And then Life We Chose about his henchman, Billy D'Elia. He wrote all those books. And in fact, Tori's right here giving me the promo. I found it on my computer, but thank you for bringing it in. No, thank you. Well, I said I'm like Ron Burgundy. You've got to give me, and anything you give me, I'll read. Anyway, we're going to do a meet and greet with the authors here at the studios. And you've got to RSVP at WILKnewsradio.com. Matt's books include The Quiet Don, The Life We Chose, The Wicked, and he's got a new one coming out, The Bookie. He's just one of my favorite authors. And then a book you guys really liked. There was a guy who was in prison with, Chris Finazzo, Reflections of a Town Driver. And he weaves story. He was one of the guys who took prisoners. He was called the town driver. They took prisoners to a train station or a bus station or an airport who had just been released from prison. And he was a big-time executive in the fashion industry and was convicted of a crime that eventually I think it was the Supreme Court of the United States decided this isn't a crime. This is just a deal where rich people Actually, regular people can convict rich people and send them to prison because they're mad at them for being rich and successful. Well, it didn't help him, but he went to prison and he was a town driver. Good guy. I could say that from firsthand experience. And we had him on, but he weaves his story of prison, redemption, and all that in with very often career criminals who he took home after they'd done a stint. Excellent, excellent book. Reflections of a Town Driver. So we're going to have them in this building from noon to 1 after I do the program. We'll interview them, of course, during the program. And I'm very excited about it. I want to do this with authors more often. You have to RSVP by Wednesday, December 10th. Seating is limited. So join me. Noon to 1. Take an extra lunch. A little bit extra time on your lunch. That's all. It's no big deal. Come and visit with us. Hang with us. And you'll get to talk to Chris Manazzo, Matt Birkbeck, get books signed, all that kind of stuff. Excited about it. And you know, we do the show, every day, and we try to break tradition. You know, we try to do something a little different now and then because, politics gets tiring. I'm sure for a lot of you, it certainly does for me. Oh, and thank you. Somebody texted, Bob, you forgot to mention your stop at the Central Football Reunion. Joe Flynn, Vietnam vet from Clark Summit. He grew up in Lower Green Ridge, Central Class of 68. I got to talk to Joe. Yes, I stopped in at the Scranton Central Football. I didn't stop in. I went and hung around with my buddies from Scranton Central. And I'm telling you, how did I forget about that? That was Saturday also. It was an absolute blast. And these guys they're great. They really are. And it was a lot of fun. We were at the Laceworks down in the plot section of Scranton. And everything was, I'm telling you, it was a blast. The DeCantis boys brought their father, Mo DeCantis. Mo's like 88 years old. And Mo was they were telling stories, and, maybe some of them you heard again, some of you didn't know. I didn't know from knowing these guys all these years. And, Emil Mo DeCantis, their head coach forever. And guess what? We had another drop-in. I'm one of the drop-ins. I said I'll be the mascot I'll be the Golden Eagle. And Roy Davis stopped by. So, I mean, you just had these characters there, a bunch of, as they say in Boston, pisses. And we had a lot of fun. Just, and it's a good bar. It's a good place to hang out. All right. Anyway, we've got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll be back with our Veterans Tribute. Jake will have the weather and more, as they always say, and we mean it, on the Bob Cordaro Show. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by a great friend of the veteran, John Basiliga. Today featuring his first and his biggest company, Eastern Roofing Systems. Headquartered in Jessup, they're one of the premier institutional, commercial roofing system companies in the country. And certainly in the eastern United States. And guess what? They bring all that expertise, all that buying power to you here in Northeast Pennsylvania because they're headquartered here. They could do your house or small building. Eastern Roofing Systems. Martin Mark Barrett III. He was 82. We lost him November 16. He was from Hollisterville. He was living at the Geno Murley Veterans Center. His wife, Debbie Lee Hartman, preceded him in death back in 2020. Born in Berwick, he attended Berwick area schools, where he and his sister were part of the concert and marching band. Martin graduated from LaSalle University in chemistry and got his master's in chemistry from the University of Scranton. He worked as a chemist for the majority of his career. He served all of us in the Army Reserves for 20 years, serving with the 300th Field Hospital in Saudi Arabia during Desert Storm. He loved his family and took good care of him. His senior years, they were sent as a resident at Geno Murley Veterans Center, the great Geno Murley Veterans Center, who took wonderful care of him. Survived by 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren, his sister, and many other family members. Mark Barrett, our veteran this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. Murph tells us this date, 1958, the Teddy Bears. They had the #1 hit with "To Know Him Is to Love Him." Don't we all think that? Anyway, Bob Cordaro back with you on WILK. And, yeah, it was a great, I don't know how I almost forgot about the Scranton Central reunion. Thanks to Joe Flynn for reminding me. My gosh, it was really one of the highlights of the weekend. And I there's people could go to them some years and not, but just a great, the Mesco boys, Joe McCarthy. It was great. Absolutely great. And they really had a good gang of people that played for Central over the years. And they were nice people, smart people, good people. And they do it every year, and nobody else that I know of does it every year. Dunmore started to do it a little more lately, which is good. And to see all the old Bucks is a blast. Although we see each other, some of them, us, on our own Thanksgiving game, which in all due candor, I missed. I plan on getting there late. Because I'm like, come on, it's my holiday. It's my Thanksgiving day. I'm not in a big rush. So I got there at, 11:17 or something. And the game had already concluded. They were already at the trucks drinking beer. Which, that's what I'm best at anyway, but still. I would have liked to have gotten there for just one play. But I didn't do it. Somebody said, Bob, I missed the part of the segment about the book signing. When is it? It is December 11th, Thursday, December 11th, here at the studios. I call it the Broadcast Center because there's about 4 radio stations here. From noon until 1 o'clock, we will be with author Chris Finazzo, and then one of my favorite authors, period, Matt Birkbeck. His selection of books, I'm telling you, you absolutely would love them, all of them. I discovered him with The Quiet Don about Russell Buffalino. What an amazing book. Just the whole package. Really great. So in any event, we're going to do that on December 11th. So not this Thursday, but the following Thursday. Can you believe it's December already? I guess so. I feel like the Christmas holiday season or the holiday season comes with Thanksgiving, in my view. Cutie had the tree up, decorated, lights on it. It's actually beautiful. She goes up to Jerry's for all seasons. She gets the tree, her and her daughter, and they come back. And I can't tell you how much I love it. I don't have to do anything. I do have to bring the huge wreath that we put in the front of the house outside. But other than that, she's just mitzying around all day, and she's got all these things she puts out. And last night we were sitting there. You know what? Funny thing. I discovered a series called The Sons of Anarchy. It's about motorcycle gangs. I discovered it in prison. The bikers used to watch it, and then all the criminals watched it. And we used to watch it together, which is always funny because the guys say, no, that we don't wear our colors like that when we're going on this or doing that, or, so they're correcting the show. But I started sort of binge watching that, and I was watching it instead of football. I can't remember. I did put one game on, but here and there. It was better than watching the NFL, which is no big surprise, by the way. I did watch the whole Eagles game on Friday, which was disappointing to say the least. They're sort of my team. I'm a Raiders fan forever, but there's nothing to root for there. all you can do is sort of bathe in the glow of memories of when the Raiders were the Raiders, when they were fun and they were funny and they were tough and good. Now, yeah, just another corporate team, at least as far as I can tell. Anyway, it was I just love that Thanksgiving weekend because I don't shop, so I didn't have to go anywhere. They had the greatest thing at Picardo's over the weekend, though. That was worth it. But I don't shop. I will buy a couple of gifts and all that because I got to the point, and it's not only because I don't have a lot of money anymore, but it's also because I don't really want any gifts. And unless I see something that, well, this is really neat to buy for whoever, then I'll buy it. If not, well, what do they need? Another thing of junk? So, in any event, not a shopper. So my duties are very limited at Thanksgiving weekend. I had the Central football reunion. I had the Thanksgiving Day festivities. And you got to see this Clark's Bar on Thanksgiving morning. I mean, you want to laugh. It's jammed. I think the only people who would love it more than we do are the old timers, real old timers who used to do such things. But yeah, fun was had by all. All right, we'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We will return. What a great song. Murph tells us this date, 1962, The Four Seasons had the number one hit with Big Girls Don't Cry. Outstanding. And even more outstanding, 1955 this date. You have to understand that I don't even know if we can appreciate the courage of people like Rosa Parks, and specifically Rosa Parks on that day. She's a seamstress. She's just a regular person. And she stood up to the disgrace of segregation in the dark days of 1955, not knowing what could happen to her. Oh, and this woman replaced by Al Sharpton. And think of who the Joy Reid. I mean, it's disgusting. It's like the descent of the Democrat Party itself. The descent of the civil rights. And now they're just race baiters and race hucksters. Almost to a person. What incredible bravery. And I mean, just standing up for mankind, Rosa Parks. I want to think back about this. Who was the pig who wanted to make a woman stand? I'm just old-fashioned that way. Who was the pig? I actually wish we could publicize who that was. And the driver who was trying to push her out. That's who we should publicize as well. Who was the pig that was going to make a woman stand because she was black? That's the one I want to know. Mother Teresa for today, when I think of disgraceful people like the segregationists. Although thinking about very positively about Rosa Parks. December 1st, the season of Advent is like springtime in nature, when everything is renewed and so is fresh and healthy. Advent, which has started today, just so you know, is also meant to do this to us, to refresh us, to make us healthy, to be able to receive Jesus in whatever form he may come to us. Mother Teresa for December 1st. How beautiful. It's Advent. That means we're supposed to be preparing for Christmas. Tony T tells me he just passed a billboard, that said the most expensive time of the year thanks to Rob Bresnahan. What? My God. These attacks on Rob Bresnahan. Number one, it tells you he's doing a great job. Number two, it tells you the left wing will not rest. How disgusting. They just lie and lie and lie and lie. And Paige Cognetti was his probable opponent, the awful mayor of Scranton, the incompetent mayor of Scranton, the phony mayor of Scranton, the left-wing lunatic mayor of Scranton, supported all of Joe Biden's policies that brought us the inflation. It's the old theory, the big lie. Remember who we told you. The people running Paige Cognetti's campaign, her imaging and her media campaign, are the same ones who ran Mamdani's, an Islamist communist. So now you know where she's coming from. Her entire campaign will be a lie. Every bit of it. By the way, one of the trolls texts in. Trump's Thanksgiving message to the nation was heartwarming. It was so touching how he called Tim Walz a serious retard. Now I hear people say that it was Trump being Trump, which they really mean is it was an a-hole being an a-hole. What are your thoughts? I didn't see it. again, for me, and I've used that word forever, do I think it's appropriate for the President of the United States? No. Am I upset about it? No. Because what we understand the word to mean, retard, Tim Walz is. So he was telling the truth. He was stating fact. But, I mean, is Thanksgiving the time? No, obviously not. Not in my view. But I'm not going to get upset about it. What do they call him? Again, you forget this, troll. What do they say about Trump? They lie about him constantly. Now, he tells the truth in an admittedly coarse manner. I'm like, so what? So, yeah, there's my view. So what? That's my thoughts. So what? Tim Walz is a disgraceful, disgusting fool. He's a jackass. He is what Trump called him. So let's not get all crazy about it. All right, we will, because my Bacardo Jewelers watch tells me that it's 10 o'clock. Oh, we're going to, hoping to have Alex Picardo call in today. But I want to remind you, they've got Raymond Weil, Breitling, Oris, Longjeans, Michelle, Shinola, Luminox, Swiss Army, Seiko, Tory Burch, Victorinox, Bulova, G-Shock. I've already got my Picardo Jeweler watch. So I'm going to be buying jewelry at Picardo's this year for Cutie. Looking forward to it, too. I love going in that store. Absolutely love it. All right, we'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll be back. Great good morning, everyone. My Cordaro Jewelers watch tells me it's 10:09 a.m. here in the great Northeast. This beautiful Monday, December 1, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values. And with the help of our friend John Basiliga, featuring one of his great companies today, Eastern Roofing Systems, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like Martin, Mark Barrett, Hollisterville, Michael Rabarchak, New Lebanon, but he was from Hazleton and Weston, John Barilla, Fishing Creek Township, and, well, Martin Barrett, we already read him, Desert Storm veteran. The United States of America, the country whose history and founding fathers and the creation of the incomparable Constitution of the United States, and we use them as our guides each and every day. So let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order. I don't know where the music went. The music ended. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you in a world where you heard it. Everything about Obamacare was a lie. And it has failed so miserably that the Democrat Party voted against keeping the government open. It went on for 40-some days? Because they were trying to cover up the failure of Obamacare. Crazy. Hey, just want to touch on this before we get to our next segment. This is why I love talking to you guys and being with you every day. Bob, the name of the driver was James F. Blake. Blake ordered Rosa Parks to give up her seat for a white passenger, leading to her arrest and the start of the Montgomery bus boycott. They had a previous encounter. Rosa Parks had a similar negative experience with Blake years earlier when he insisted she exit and re-enter the bus from the back after she had paid at the front. So we've got one of the disgraceful fools, whether he's with us or not, we don't know. James Blake, the bus driver. Thank you so much for that. By the way, somebody texted in, I'm not trying to stir your pot, but the prices are up 2.7% this year. Okay. I don't know how that would stir my pot. I don't know. Doesn't bother me at all. Biden created, Democrat policies created, Democrat spending created, left-wing lunatics created inflation of over 9%. What do you think? Trump's going to fix it in 10 months? And by the way, targets for inflation. Targets, meaning what they want, is 2%. Roughly 2% inflation is healthy for the economy. So we're almost in that sweet spot in just 10 months after the disgrace of the Biden administration. So I think he's doing really well. His economic policies are correct. They work. Even the Federal Reserve had to admit that tariffs do not cause inflation. It's a fact. You heard it here first, but it's a fact. There's not even correlation between tariffs and inflation. And that's what they kept throwing out. Remember, everything the media and the Democrats say is a lie. Everything. Now, if you got an opinion Trump's an a-hole, that's another story. You could have that opinion. But it doesn't reflect on his performance and on his policies. All right. Well, it's Monday. And that means Monday musings. And that means we didn't start the fire. And our guy, John Perillo, is with us. Hey, John. How are you, brother?
Good morning. How are you?
I hope Thanksgiving was great.
Well, it was. Navy is undefeated on Thanksgiving Day games, so I was pretty excited about that.
Who do they play? Do they play one specific team on Thanksgiving?
No, they've never played Thanksgiving. They by virtue of their record, they played Memphis, which was a very good team. You know, for those of us who aren't in the have any chance of being the professional college football teams, and they won. So we'll see how that goes from there.
Nice. What do they have?
Yeah.
2 losses or 1?
They have 2. North Texas, which was a very, very good team, and Notre Dame, which played a very good game against them. I mean, they just played great assignment football. So, yeah, we can talk football and Thanksgiving and Lent and all. Advent and all those things.
Well, I don't know if you had a chance to hear it, but a friend of ours who he's second generation at our Thanksgiving football game. He wrote these great lyrics. Because we've got this football tradition, and he wrote these great lyrics. He submitted them to an app on AI, and we played the song this morning to start the show. It's fantastic.
It's amazing what AI can do with music. We were messing around with that a little bit ourselves on Thanksgiving, and here's the polka version of whatever the topic you want to talk about.
That's great.
It got out of hand a bit, but it was
all
great.
right. But that's not what you called in to talk about.
No, that's not what I called in to talk about. But I did want to bring up something that back in June during the ICE riots, I mentioned the Tower of Babel story from the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And yes, I know that I tend to look at pretty much everything in terms of what the Hebrews thought because they pretty much thought of everything. So it was really amazing when I spotted an article by a guy named Jonathan Haidt, who is an ethics professor at NYU, which is a very liberal place. And the article had a picture of the Tower of Babel under the headline that said, quote, "Why the past 10 years of American life have been uniquely stupid." And I thought, wow, this is interesting on a liberal magazine and a liberal author, to quote something relatively conservative. And for those who aren't familiar with the biblical story of Babel, way back in the first book of the Bible, in the book of Genesis, after the flood, the descendants of Noah build a great city with a tower designed to reach to the heavens in order to, quote, "make a name for themselves," unquote. And God's not happy with that motivation, pride being a very serious sin. So he confuses their language, and that causes people to be unable to communicate, and they're condemned to never be united in thought again. And that story explains the philosophical reality that humans are condemned to never really understand each other. And what Mr. Haidt wrote, he must be a listener to this show, by the way, was that the story of Babel is the best metaphor for what has happened in the U.S., especially in the last 15 years or so. And I mean, for quite some time, there's been a red and a blue America that has 2 entirely different understandings of the Constitution, of economics, of history, of just about everything. But for those of us who are of a certain age, we can certainly say that what is going on today seems different. And while most people talk about the Tower of Babel as the origin of tribes and tribalism, Mr. Haidt said and saw it as a fracturing of everything. And what we see today is not really just red and blue divide, but now further divides within red and blue, which would be bad enough if it stayed within places like universities and businesses, but it's now even tearing families apart. And I've said, that what has happened in part because of social media, but how it happened and what does it mean for us as a nation, I think is a different discussion that Haidt helped me understand a bit better. The study of history normally concentrates on things that tore humans apart, things like wars and religious conflicts, which certainly are very important. But along with those things, there have also been a growing together of humans into a new and more productive relationships. And things like ease of travel, of the printing press obviously allowed for better trade and better relations between tribes. Things like our Constitution were truly extraordinary philosophical developments that spread globally. And then in the early 1990s, we had the beginning of the internet. And that included chat rooms and message boards and email. The first real social media platforms like MySpace didn't hit until about 2003, and Facebook captured the market in about 2008. And at that time, people saw social media as a real help to those who were supporting representative governments. And just by virtue of them existing, it became damn near impossible for a dictator or autocracy to control the narrative. And there's some real examples of that, right? In 2011, with the Arab Spring and the Occupy movement, and regardless of what you thought of either of those, they were made possible because of social media. And also in 2011, we got Google Translate. And that had to be the end of the Tower of Babel, right? I mean, if everybody could talk to everyone else, no matter what language they spoke, the Tower of Babel is essentially over. And at the beginning of 2012, Mark Zuckerberg wrote that social media would, quote, once again transform many of our core institutions and industries. And in the 10 or so years since then, social media has done precisely that. And you'll hear me mention on this show on occasion the stories that I heard from my grandma, especially, came over on the boat in 1900-something with nothing. And I tend to reference the church and Christianity a fair amount. And your family likely had similar common stories, as well as trust in our institutions like church and government, even if we didn't always agree with them. And those stories and that trust was something that we shared as a nation. And again, even if we didn't agree with everything that they represented, right? Well, coincidentally, social scientists have said again and again that what holds nations together are shared stories, strong institutions, and social trust, all three of which have been badly damaged by social media. And the biggest change came in 2009 with what's called viral dynamics. In 2009, Facebook created a way for people to, quote, like a post. And Twitter that same year came up with the share button. And with those changes, those two small changes, social media was less about sending a picture or a letter and more about a competition for likes and retweets. And one of the engineers who worked on the retweet option at Twitter later said that he thought, quote, we just might have handed a 4-year-old a loaded weapon. Just think about that for a second. This engineer knew what would happen next. And he was right, because instead of a mutual searching for the capital T truth or having a substantive debate or connecting with other people, what social media became was moralistic and outrageous. And they created what my son refers to as the dump-on culture. And instead of you and I saying that we need to discuss this or that issue, I'll either get a bunch of thumbs up from a comment I make or a bunch of truly hateful comments. Our social media Tower of Babel rewards what's called maximalists, those who are the most extreme on either end. And oh, by the way, in case you're wondering when I'll get to the Constitution like I generally do, I'll do that now. James Madison spoke of, quote, the turbulency and weakness of unruly passions, end quote. And the purpose of having a slower, more deliberate Senate, or having the president chosen by electors instead of the people, and having the filibuster and having a court system, and intentionally making the legislative process difficult enough to require compromise, was precisely to slow down that turbulence and to tame our unruly passions that Madison wrote about, both of which are magnified by this dump-on culture. Precisely as Madison warned, we're governed now by the loudest and the most unruly, no matter what side they're on, by the way. And you see this all the time. One side makes a turbulently stupid comment about lawful orders, and the response is a perfect example of truly unruly passions. Thank you, James Madison. And in the Federalist Papers, Federalist 10 talks about the fact that humans are by nature tribal. Those pesky Hebrews were right again, as always. But it also talks about how people tend to get themselves spun up over trivial things. Madison, speaking here again, says, quote, where no substantial occasion presents itself, the most frivolous and fanciful distinctions have been sufficient to kindle their unfriendly passions and excite their most violent conflicts. So basically, people fight over stupid stuff. You think? That was Madison's point, right? And social media is Madison's nightmare because it both increases the velocity and power of trivia and makes it more dangerous. And Haidt gives what I think is a very good example of AOC's tax the rich dress, right? Look, it was stupid. And who cares? In a healthy society, we'd roll our eyes and walk away. Same with somebody in Congress telling military personnel what they learn on day 2 of GMT, general military training, that they don't have to follow lawful orders. That falls into the no-duh category, and yet my feed had about 20 stories on the subject, and I spent much of last week, talking people who should know better off their social media ledges because they were maximalists, right? But what that does is not just waste our time. It also chips away at the second pillar that keeps societies together, and that's social trust. So Congress and the office of the president were both diminished in the eyes of the citizens that they represent. That pillar of trust gets eroded. And there's a research group you may have heard of called Edelman, and it does reviews of the most and least trusted organizations in the world. And the governments of China and the United Arab Emirates score higher on trust with their citizens than we do in the United States. Chinese leaders score higher. Digest that for a minute. Guess what, listeners? We are the tower. We are the people of Babel. And what's the other pillar that I mentioned that was holding us up? And that's the shared stories. But my grandmother's story is discounted by younger people today. She came here with nothing, got married, and in her words, I still had nothing, and he had less. You had to WILK. She was from Brooklyn, right? 25 cents a shirt, saved and bought a shoe store. It's still there in Westbury, New York. And oh, by the way, you can Google Perillo shoes in Westbury and see pictures of it. But with social media, those stories get torn down. She was apparently a privileged person, and that would have surprised the heck out of her. I mean, she came here with the clothes on her back and a phone number of a cousin who had a job. And if they found out she was sick when she got off on the boat in Ellis Island, or if she didn't have and keep work, she would have been sent back to Italy. That doesn't diminish the horror of what happened in slavery and the way we treated blacks in society, right? But neither is the current narrative that all whites are privileged even remotely true. And those divisions are further reinforced by social media that gives a voice and an audience to the most extreme voices. And doing that tears down the stories that held us together. Those people certainly weren't perfect. Well, no kidding, right? They were dirt poor people trying to scratch out a living in the only country that gave them a chance to do so. The post-Babel society doesn't have that story anymore, and it becomes, like the Hebrews predicted, more and more fractured. And those institutions, those stories, and that trust was the mortar that held our tower together. And even our entertainment kind of united us. If you think back to like the old John Wayne movies or Humphrey Bogart, that cynical American, wherever he was, with a heart of gold, that was the mirror, that's Haidt's word, that we looked at that reflected us back. We were them, but that mirror is shattered. So what everyone sees is entirely different. There's no common image. There's a million different images from that shattered vision. So if you get a chance, it would be worth it for you to read the rest of this, but you got the gist of it here. And look, we just celebrated our national holiday of giving thanks. And maybe take a moment, no matter what your political leanings, to be thankful for this truly great nation, and perhaps to remember to whom we're supposed to be thankful, because that's the glue that we need. And continue, your search for the capital T truth, not what some algorithm that's feeding you. Right? And I just wanted to thank everybody again for the week. We had a great Thanksgiving out here, and I hope you guys had there as well, and are able to enjoy some of that this week.
All right. Our man, John Perillo. Thank you, John. Always a pleasure. Always informative. We enjoy hanging with you.
You guys have a great week. Thanks again, Bob. You take care.
All right. John Perillo. Monday Musings. We'll be back after this. Our Veterans Tribute today and every day, this hour and every hour. Brought to you by John Basiliga. And just one of his great companies we feature today on Mondays, which is Eastern Roofing Systems. Eastern Roofing Systems is one of the premier and largest roofing contractors in the eastern United States. But guess what? They bring that purchasing power. They bring that expertise because they're headquartered here in Jessup to all of Northeast Pennsylvania, all within the sound of my voice. They can do the roof on your house. They can do the roof on your small building. Eastern Roofing Systems. Michael Rybarczak. He was just 42 when he died November 15th. He was living in New Lebanon, New York. Born in Hazleton, he grew up in Weston. He enjoyed hunting, mountain biking, fishing, sitting around campfires, and amusing others with his fantastic sense of humor. He was a 2001 graduate of Hazleton Area High School, then enlisted in the U.S. Army. He was stationed at Fort Drum, Watertown, New York, where he was a PFC in the 41st Engineer Battalion of the 10th Mountain Division. He served one tour of duty in Operation Iraqi Freedom. During his time of service, Michael was awarded many medals for outstanding achievements, one of which was the 2002 Super Sapper 41st Engineer Battalion Soldier of the Year. How about that? After being discharged from the U.S. Army, he entered the Carpenters Union of Northeast PA, Local 645, through the Helmets to Hard Hats apprenticeship course. He was most recently employed as a property maintenance manager for Alexander Haley Property Maintenance in Stephentown, New York. While living in Weston, Mike was a member of Sacred Heart of Jesus Church. He was also a previous member of the VFW in Cunningham. He enjoyed all things history related. Surviving in addition to his parents, his maternal grandparents, 2 children, 2 brothers, and many other family members. Far too young. Michael Rybarczak, our veteran this hour.
Thank you, Bob. Taking a look at the Storm Tracker 16 forecast brought to you by meteorologist Joe Snedeker. For today, sunny and breezy with a high of 34 degrees. Increasing clouds tonight with a low of 27. Snow starting early tomorrow that could be heavy at times. 3 to 6 inches are possible. Snow will end by the afternoon and a high of 32 degrees. Partly cloudy tomorrow night with a low of 25 and then partly sunny on Wednesday with a high of 32. 34 degrees and cloudy right now here at WILK AM and 103.1 FM. Time to get back to the Bob Cordaro Show on WILK.
That was Mark May of the Redskins. The Zombies. This date, 1965, they released their hit, Tell Her No. Bob Cordaro back with you on WILK. And Mark from Hazelton sent me just a cute little thing. NORAD. You know how they do that thing? I remember as a little kid when I believed in Santa, I still believe him in another form, but the Santa tracker, it started on December 1st, way back when, since 1955. And it was a Sears store who put an advertisement in the Colorado Springs newspaper. And it gave the wrong phone number. This one was for the Continental Air Defense Command, the CONAD Center. So a call comes, this is the lore, to a guy named Harry Shoup. And he was a very serious guy. Well, he was doing pretty serious things, monitoring nuclear attacks during the height of the Cold War. And he realized, hey, this could be an opportunity. I don't know what this little girl's calling about. Well, they apparently got a couple more phone calls, and they turned it into an annual event, and now the NORAD will give us, mostly on December 24th, they will give us that tracking Santa thing, which I think is really cute. I really do. In any event. Thank you, Mark. He always keeps us informed. Somebody says that Tim Walz, somebody says, is it the truth that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, and the former vice presidential candidate is retarded? Well, it's not a word that I would use on reflection, and Trump used the word, but okay. I don't know, by the way, I don't know where the word got to be so offensive, and I don't know why either, just so you know. But is it true? Yeah. Well, there's defense. He's an idiot and a fool and a liar. Idiot, a fool, and a liar. He deserves whatever terminology somebody wants to use. And that, again, it's not the word I would use. I don't know that I wouldn't say, oh, well, I'll defend Trump. He was right. No, but the fact is, Tim Walz is an idiot who, if he was sent to Clark Summit State Hospital, he would not get out. I'm telling you he wouldn't. He'd be babbling on and on. Remember George Costanza when he got put in the funny farm? And he wasn't going to get out. It's crazy. But again, much ado about nothing. People just look for stuff. And by the way, what does that have to do? What does that have to do with anything in this country? And did you care that Joe Biden had zero capacity to be president of the United States and that they were covering it up? One of the greatest scandals in history. No, you didn't. One of the trolls, my God, if Biden ever called someone a retard, you would lose your mind, and you know it. No, I wouldn't. He's a stupid, corrupt, foolish person. Joe Biden. And the same with Tim Walz, who, by the way, allowed the Somalis, basically street gangs, to steal millions of dollars from their welfare program in Minnesota. He's a jackass. Total jackass. Somebody said Powell just came out the other day citing tariffs as a cause for prices being up 2%, 2.7%. Well, number one, the goal of the Fed, Powell is a fool. He's been awful at his job. He's bent to political will, and he's obviously got to be a left-wing Democrat. Has to be. So he says the tariffs are the cause. His own analysis, meaning from the Fed, is that they do not cause inflation. So he's disagreeing with the analysis he's being provided, which will tell you enough about him and his performance in that job. He's a left-winger. He hates Trump. And he allows that to color the work that he does, which is why he's got to be replaced. Really ridiculous. So I just say to you this. You are upset about Trump calling somebody a retard and using that, he called him a serious retard, using the word. I am not upset in the least. In fact, it's probably one of the less offensive things Trump has said. But you were not upset about the insane performance of Joe Biden and the left-wing lunatics who ran his government. Like the 13 kids that were killed in Afghanistan because of his botched withdrawal, so that he could give a speech about how great he is on the 20th anniversary of September 11th. You don't care about the 300,000 kids who came into this country unaccompanied. Many of which, thousands of whom, were sold into sex slavery and slave labor. The 60,000 calls from those desperate children to the hotline that was set up supposedly to protect them from such nightmares. You don't care about that, and not one of the calls was responded to. You don't care about tens of millions of people coming into this country unvetted, unvaccinated, when they were pretending that COVID was the health issue of our lifetime. You don't care about any of that. It's disgraceful. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're a phony. You're a phony. You trolls are phony. And you live on lies. And you got to check yourself. Why do I live on lies? Do I hate Trump? Fine. I don't care. But to ignore reality, to ignore fact, to ignore the truth, shame on you. Shame on you. Big time shame. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Murph tells us this date, 1967, The Who ended their first tour of the United States. He picked I Can See for Miles as the song. And 1990 this date, British and French workers digging the Channel Tunnel. The channel between their countries finally meet, knocking out a passage in a service tunnel. Amazing. It really was. And they were thinking when they were doing it that they weren't going to get it done. Amazing feat of engineering and work ethic that probably escapes Europe today. One of the trolls texting in, you make no effort at all. It's all the same talking points every day, the same manufactured outrage. I thought you were smarter than that. Shame on me, I guess. Yeah, the same calling out of nonsense. The same commitment to common sense on all fronts, which you've got to actually analyze why that bothers you. Why does common sense bother you? What is your devotion to these disgraceful fools that run the Democrat Party? I don't get it. I really don't get it. What is your commitment to Obamacare, which has failed miserably? We played the Obama clip 3-4 times already. I'll keep playing it. Where he lies about everything related to Obamacare. I just don't get it. We have one more thing I want to play that my friend RW sent. Well, I guess I'll play it in the second hour. Or the third hour. We're gonna have Chet Parlavecchio on the weekend wrap up. But first, let's go to Donald. He's in Pittston on Tim Walls. How are you, Donald?
Unbelievable. It's all over the news. Talk about sweet justice. These were the people, Claiborne, Walls, Omar, calling it Trump Hitler, and now they're in billions of fraud. And
Yep.
I know their district in Minnesota, we're talking big, like an app scam deal, billions. We're talking about COVID money. This is huge, and they're investigating Patel, Bondi, and they're going after him. And this could bring the whole party down. That's how big this thing is. Billions with these Afghans and all these other foreign
nationals. Think of it, Donald.
I
I say this often. If you are divorced from fact, truth, and reality in the things you say every day, whether you believe them or not, I have no idea. Whether you, but they apparently serve your purpose. Think of the left-wingers. That's why they're all incompetent. That's why they're all incompetent. They don't understand reality.
Don't even find this. This is something Jones didn't find. This just came into with these billions.
Yep.
Billions would it be?
Yep.
People are going down, man. They're investigating Minnesota, the whole state. He might go to, I don't know, you're innocent before proven guilty, but it doesn't look good for the state of Minnesota with all those foreign nationals smothered in there and stuff. There's going to be a house cleaning with this. You have the evidence now. You know what I mean? They took the money and they're putting people in jail.
The funny part, Donald, and the sad part is incompetence is a defense.
It's amazing, though, because I remember Claiborne said he couldn't find I camping with Tim Walls, couldn't find a finer man, and Omar, when they're comparing, great governor. I'm not saying he's a bad governor. Whatever's going on
Horrible
here, it doesn't look good at all.
He's been a horrible governor.
Yeah,
he's not good at his job.
Right.
He's a dummy. He's a liar. He's insane. Trump
I'm just
called
saying
him a different name,
but this don't look good at all.
I know it.
He's running for re-election on top of it. See, that's why you can't really you can't use those words like Fetterman said. You were calling him Hitler or something. See, now look at it. Now they're at the mercy of the court. Him, all of them. I mean, you just can't use those words against the most powerful man in America. And believe me, there's going to be repercussions on this because they got the goods right now. They're looking right at it.
Go get them. Go get them, I say. Thank you, Donald. My pleasure. Let's go to Leslie in Montdale. How are you, Leslie?
I am well. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
That's good. I told Jake there's a song by Charlie Daniels, and it's called God Bless America Again. And I'm wondering if you could run it through with your musical magician because I am not trying to usurp his authority, but see if we could get it played. I think it'd be a nice idea, especially between Thanksgiving and the holiday season and
Okay.
Christmas. And one more thing. Do you remember a comedian by the name of Foster Brooks?
Oh, yes.
Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, there we are, you know? And he was sober. That was an act
Yeah,
he had.
I know.
She's the
She's
real
actually
deal, though.
smashed most of the time.
I know,
Yeah.
and it's hilarious. I always think of him, and rest in peace, Foster. But yes, indeed, I get the biggest kick out of when you play her. It just makes
Oh.
my day.
And these are the leaders of the country.
I
These are the
know.
leaders of the Democrat Party. It tells you all you need to know about the Democrat Party today.
Yeah, and then somebody will call you up, one of the trolls, you know, and have the balls to say retarded. Well, I think she's a little slow in some areas, and that's what retardation is.
Yep.
You know? Oh, dear Lord.
And by the way, that is no slur to me. That is no
Right.
slur on some of the most beautiful people on the planet that were
True.
formerly known as that word.
Same
It's just
here.
it's just a pejorative word that has
That's
its
it.
own meaning and that sometimes hits the mark.
I know, because classification, I have a friend who can't hear, and he's slightly slow. And I have a friend that can't hear, he's blind in one eye, and he's slightly slow. And yet, driving cars, I have a depth perception. I don't drive. They take me because I'd kill somebody. I'd wind up in somebody's back seat. I can't tell a foot from a mile. You know, so who's the retard? I guess I am. You know, we're all slow in some areas.
Oh,
we
I
just
can vouch
play-
for myself. Yep.
We play to our strengths, and praise God, we have what we have.
Amen. Thank you always, Leslie. Thank you,
You
dear.
take care of yourself.
We'll get it. I wrote that song down. We'll get to it.
Thank
all right?
you, sweetheart. Love you much. God bless.
Thank you, darling. Hey, my Cordaro Jewelers watch tells me it's 11 o'clock. Let's do that. Get the news from Mark Nashko, and then we'll come back with Chet Parlavecchio. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Great good morning, everyone. My Cordaro jeweler watch tells me it's 11:09 and change here in the great Northeast this beautiful Monday, December 1, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man John Basiliga and his great Eastern Roofing Systems, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we lost this year, but celebrate today thanks to John, like Martin Mark Barrett, Hollisterville, Michael Rabarchak, New Lebanon, but he was from Hazleton and Weston, and John Barilla, Fishing Creek Township. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order after that brief news adjournment, this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that because of our commitment to common sense, we will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you. Somebody texted in at some point being so right about so many things, from Obamacare, COVID, the 2020 election, the vaccine, the trafficking, the illegal invasion. And you could go on, and I agree with you. The left refuses to live in reality. This listener says there's nothing short of demonic possession. Nothing else makes sense. Pray. I agree. It's frightening. It really, and like, just for example, one of the main trolls. Why doesn't the GOP fix the healthcare system instead of whining about it? Just wondering. Because they don't have a consensus to do so. And they've got no leeway within their conference, either in the House or the Senate. They'd never get through getting rid of Obamacare and replacing it with something better that made more sense. There's not enough votes. So that's why. And the Republican Party is not a lockstep cult like the Democrat Party is right now. You have different minds, different opinions, and they'll all assert them. It's very hard to get them together on one solution. If they had a super majority in the House and the Senate, we would get a replacement for Obamacare. But right now, no. Think of it. John McCain, one of his last acts, and was not a John McCain fan. He had moments of greatness in his life, but this was not one of them. He voted against eliminating Obamacare simply to spite Trump, who we hated. So, what are you going to do here with these people? And you see, you're nitpicking about it, but you either don't deny that Obamacare is a disaster and has cost us all billions in increased health insurance premiums, health care costs, deductibles, and copays, billions. You can't live in reality, and I don't get it. I really don't understand it. It makes zero sense. The right are all united with anything Trump says or does. What are you talking about? Well, then you don't know what you're talking about. You have no clue what you're talking about. No clue. You have no idea. So you haven't even been watching. You haven't even been paying attention, but you'll make an ignorant statement like that. I'm conservative. I don't agree with a lot of stuff Trump does. But here's the other thing. Republican policy is common sense. It's pretty easy, unless you're an insane left-wing lunatic, to coalesce around common sense strategies, common sense policies. To coalesce in lockstep around insanity like the Democrats have done over the last 5 years is mind-boggling that they all agree with the open border, no bail, fighting ICE, sanctuary cities, Green New Deal. It's insane. Absolutely insane. And maybe you are too. Just please be aware of that. In any event, it's Monday, which means we got a lot of football to talk about. We got the Monday wrap-up. And guess who is going to do it for us today? Well, is he the same guy that was on Dancing to the Stars to this very song? Is he the same guy in the New Jersey Football Hall of Fame as a coach? Is he the same guy that was a Penn State star? Is he the same guy that was a new Green Bay Packers star and an NFL coach? Yes, it is. And it's indisputably our man, Chet Parlavecchio. Chester, how are you, my
What's
man?
up, Bobby? Happy post-Thanksgiving, pal.
Yes,
Hope everyone's well.
yes. Well, it was a heck of a weekend football-wise. There was a lot going on.
Oh, let me tell you something. It was one of my favorite weekends of the year. It was all the interstate rivalries. It was rivalry weekend, and there's some great stories behind all of it. But before I start, saying anything, I want to preface by saying we always said we're going to take a little different view of things. We're not just going to quote scores and talk about stats. What does rivalry weekend really mean to these colleges? And I don't. In retrospect, I think back to my time at Penn State, and I think back to one of the greatest rivalries in NCAA history. That, in the wisdom of the NCAA or both colleges, somehow it doesn't exist anymore. But the Pitt-Penn State rivalry was right there with the Texas A&M, Auburn, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. We were right there. We took a back seat to nobody.
That was a
Thanksgiving weekend. And I always remembered how you could throw records away on this weekend. And I think the scores and the way, when we go over real quick some of the highlights of it, you'll see how I think, Bobby, in the end, it's what makes college football different than professional football. You just want to have bragging rights within your own state. There's just something there that whether you're going to go on and play in the NFL or not, you're going to raise your level. No matter what your record was, some reason young men, you could say the word kids, some reason they're not going to let their interstate rivals shame them. And in no way really did anybody get shamed. And there's some, you would say on paper, mismatches. Again, when my era, one of the greatest rivalry games ever played. Pitt was number 1 in the nation. We were number 3. And we went in and kicked the crap out of them in Pittsburgh. And on that field that day of 44 starters, there was probably 35 future NFLers and 3 Hall of Famers on the field. So our game took second fiddle to nobody back in the day. But I guess, they're in the ACC now. You're in the Big Ten. It's gone. But anyway, let's look down at some of the rivalries and what it looked like. Let's start with the biggie, Ohio State and Michigan. If there was a mismatch or if one game got out of hand a little bit, it probably was that. Ohio State had 420 yards in offense. The kid Sayin was efficient. Julian Sayin's a good young quarterback. I don't think he's a Heisman Trophy guy. I think he's very fortunate to have a lot of other pieces that allow him to be successful. The kid Underwood at Michigan, his youth showed, his first-year starting showed, and, he struggled all day long. Michigan struggled. You're talking about they had 160 yards in offense. Early in the game, they had some things happen for them, but the reality was that the talent took over late in the game, and that was probably the only one that got a little out of hand. Georgia and Georgia Tech, dead down the middle. Here's a Georgia Tech team that gets shamed against a Pittsburgh team that just got shamed this weekend against Miami. So you're thinking Georgia Tech against the number 4 team in the nation, they've got nothing. But here's an example of what we talk about. Both teams dead even in yardage, dead even. Georgia Tech played the best defense I've seen them play this season. Offensively, they stalled, but they did equal to what Georgia did. But in the end, Georgia had a couple athletes that were able to make just a few more plays that allowed them to get the edge. But well played, dead even football game. Texas A&M. Arch Manning, started out a little slow, and then he picked his game up, and he played really well, I thought. In his first big game, whatever they call that, 179 yards passing. But the story was the kid Wisner, who rushed for 155 yards. I thought that kid at Texas really made it tough on a real good defensive A&M football team. A&M really, Marcel Reed struggled. He had a couple picks. And I thought Texas now has opened up the argument, which we'll finish the college side with in a minute. And then the other one, which I thought is my favorite, I'm a Vanderbilt guy. And Vandy in Tennessee, right down, right there, same state. What an interstate rivalry. Vandy goes down there again on the edge of the college football playoff. They go down there, and Pavia has a day that, 400 yards in offense between rushing and throwing. They had 580 yards down in Tennessee and beat the hell out of them. You talk about, to me, the Heisman Trophy winner. No football player in the NCAA in college means more to his football team than Pavia means to Vanderbilt. The last 2 years, that kid has taken predominantly a 2-win football team and made them now in a 10-win, a double-digit winning season again for Vanderbilt. They've beaten 2 or 3 top 20 teams or top 10 teams. They play a brutal schedule. If they don't deserve to be in, I don't know who does. Again, after you look at the whole picture, and as we bounce to the college playoff picture based on, we talk about these rivalries, again, my favorite argument. I listened to one of the guys on one of the sports talk shows, Booger McFarland, and he said, some of these teams they play, they struggled with Mississippi State. They struggled when overtime, ba-beep-ba-bop. Hey, listen, I told you a long time ago. You play Auburn, and by the way, Alabama and Auburn, dead down the middle, exact same yardage, just a couple more mistakes that Auburn made, but they played the hell out of Alabama. Interstate rival, great football game. On paper, Alabama should have killed them, but Auburn hung in there. But back to what I was saying, you literally look at those bottom third of the SEC. Those are wars, man.
Yeah.
You can't just go and show up against South Carolina, Auburn, Tennessee. You can't do that. You got to come to play while they're playing those teams in the bottom half of their schedule. Notre Dame's lining up with Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Marines. I mean, they're doing the tour of the military. I mean, you got to play some people. You're playing Syracuse, who's abysmal. And again, getting out of a championship weekend, which we have next weekend, an opportunity to perhaps lose a game. So Notre Dame is the team I got the Jones for. Notre Dame is the team, to me, that somebody good is not going to make it. Texas is our first argument with a 3-loss football team. Now, you just beat the number 2 or 3 ranked team by 10 points. You play a brutal schedule. You have a number of top 10 wins, but you have 3 losses. But you play a brutal schedule, and and I know, Bobby, they're better than Utah. They're better than SMU. They're better than Tulane. So that team should be right up there with the top 12 teams in the nation. But
the people who decide this,
come up with.
Who make these decisions, Chester.
I guess there's a committee, NCAA committee that goes through this.
Do they think about a little variety, like to let a Vandy in there and say, we got all the usual suspects. Could we let somebody in different?
You do. You have the first 8 are the usual suspects. I told you the argument, the fight's going to be in the last 4. But I'll tell you what they do. They want you to run scores up, like Notre Dame just did with Syracuse, which was a disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they think they could BS you by running scores up, style points they call them. There's no style in that. What style is that? What message do you think you're sending? You know what I mean? That to me, but that's what the NCAA wants. So now that helps them, gives them another criteria, perhaps, to separate football teams. And that to me is the problem with the process. I mean, like I said, I just look at a school like Vanderbilt the last 2 years, especially this year, the schedule they play to go down into Tennessee and put 600 yards in offense on them. Come on, man, they deserve to be in that tournament. And I don't know at whose expense. And like I said, you'll have an argument for Texas too. Those are the 2 boys on the outside looking in. You want me to get fired up about Miami? Come on, what the ACC stinks. I mean, you want me to beat the truth here? The ACC's how good is the ACC? Look who's playing in the ACC title game. Virginia and Duke. Are you kidding me? Here, Bobby, here's the hypocrisy of it. You have Virginia and Duke playing in the ACC title game, yet the team that right now is in the playoff isn't playing in that game.
Fascinating.
You explain it to me.
Yeah.
Miami. So we got a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of things in this process.
Well, we're going to catch you. We're going to take a break mid-fire here, Chester, and we'll come back with the NFL. Brother. Our man, Chet Parlavecchio, will take a break and be back. It's the Monday wrap-up on the Bob Cordaro Show. John Lennon, Yoko Ono. Murph tells us this date, 1971, they released their Christmas hit, Happy Christmas. The war is over. Bob Cordaro back with you on the eponymous program. And my man Mark Mayer texts in, Chet the Dancing Machine. Well, yes, that is him. And here he is, Chet Parlavecchio. The Monday wrap-up. All right, let's go to the NFL, Chester. What do we got?
Yeah, well, again, we talk about the locals first. And by the way, Bobby, just real quick, shout-out to Penn State with a nice win over Rutgers, and they solidified a bowl bid, which is great for those kids. Never quit on the season. So congratulations to all those
through
seniors.
a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, through a hell of a year, through a brutal year. Anyway, back to this. You know, Bobby, I can't recall in a week, and by the way, I'll preface this by saying I have never seen the NFL more wide open than I can remember in recent years. There is nobody setting themselves apart in this league anymore. Right now, I don't know if the word is parity or mediocrity. I'm starting to lean towards mediocrity.
Mediocrity, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we talk about our locals, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Let's talk about them together because the same butt whooping happened to both of them the same exact way. When you give up 300 yards rushing on both sides there, okay, that's the first time that, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh have there's a sense about them. They're tough guys. They're physical, tough, blue collar football team. That can't sit well with either team the way it happened. You didn't get beat. You got beat up. You got pushed around. And I'm interested to see what the result is going to be. Now, in Philadelphia's case, I'm more shocked. Again, I didn't think you could do that to a Vic Fangio defense, push them around like that. But obviously, with the again, mediocrity of the offense, and it's been that way all year, without a rhythm in that offense week to week, again, it caught up to them. But in Pittsburgh's case, I'm going to tell you something, Bobby. Bosa hit Aaron in the back and gave him a hell of a shot. Helmet went down, split his nose, laid on the ground, hurt that hand that's broken. And you know something? And as much as I loved watching him play, I saw an old man that's done now. It's time. He got up, and I saw a face that was saying, "What am I doing?" You know what I mean? And
I have enough money. What am I doing here?
Exactly. What am I doing? What am I doing? And the truth is, you don't want to see anybody play one game too many, and you don't want to see any. You watch Russell Wilson the last 2 years. He's, I want to remember you, kid, for being a Hall of Fame quarterback on a Hall of Fame team. Aaron, I want to remember the greatness you had, but now you're starting to become a journeyman that it just isn't happening, man. It's just not that team anymore. It's just not that guy anymore. And I'd like to see him, reevaluate hopefully at the end of the year and make the right decision. Because right now, I'll be honest with you, that looked pretty bad. Now, on the other side, again, Buffalo looked tremendous. I mean, Buffalo, again, but they've done that before. And then they'll go lose to New Orleans next week if that's who they played. I mean, so we can't get a read on them. Around the league, though, the Jets, baby. Hey, Bobby, I was sitting here on TV watching it, and there was so few people. I think I heard Randy say, "Hey, Chad, I'm here." I heard him he might have been the only guy there. Yeah. I think I heard the bag yelling for me. So, but hey, power to them. They won a game. Listen, Atlanta's only got themselves to blame, and that bothers me because the head coach of Atlanta, Raheem Morris, played for me in high school. One of my great kids. So I was rooting for him. But again, 400 yards in offense and you lose the game.
By the way, Chet, doesn't that make you feel old?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Bobby, yeah, it does. I was trying to figure out a way to say no, it doesn't, but yeah it does.
Yeah.
No.
Love it.
And he looks great. He hasn't changed. So anywhere else around their league otherwise, again, Stafford has his worst game against Carolina. Bryce Young has a nice game. And Carolina pulls off the big upset. I mean, Green Bay, here's my two things of the week. I mean, again, actually three things that I wanted to touch. First one, look at Burrow coming back in Baltimore. Look what the immediate effect is. Look when you have one of those guys that can see the field, how everybody plays. You know something, Bobby, the greatness of a player? I learned a long time ago. My coach used to tell me, Tony Verducci, the father of the great baseball writer, Tom Verducci. And Tommy was with me at Penn State, went to school there. His father used to say something that was pretty good. He says, the mark of greatness, Chet, is the ability to make other people better, not yourself. And I always gauge that. Do you make people around you better? Mm-hmm. And when you see a guy like Burrow all of a sudden come in the lineup, it's amazing how everybody perked up. Everybody played a little difference. They actually played something called defense a little bit, which was nice to see. I mean, he had a modest game, but he managed the game. He was efficient, and they pulled off a big win. But the two games that caught my eye, Green Bay and Detroit on Thanksgiving. Green Bay, again, Love had a good game. Yardage was just about dead even. But for the first time, Green Bay made plays really when they had to. And the second concern in that game would be if I'm Detroit, defensively, you're looking pretty bad lately now. You're giving up a lot of yards. You're not playing good defense. And with a red-hot Dallas team coming in, in a wide open league, in a wide open NFC, it's kind of scary for Detroit next week. Again, I'll say this about the Dallas Cowboys, our second game on Thanksgiving. That was the most physical that I've seen the Dallas Cowboys play in at least 5 years, for sure, that I can remember. And here's the thing you look at. They're not a good defensive football team, but they played good defense on Patrick Mahomes. They rushed him. They hurried him. They knocked him down. They kept themselves in the game. But the story of the game, I told you a week ago, and I love all those naysayers, to me, the best story in the NFL this year that goes under the radar, in my opinion, to me, the leading candidate for the MVP, like I told you I wanted for the Heisman, I think Dak Prescott willed that game the other day. Mm-hmm. He was not going to let that game slip away. He threw for over 300 yards. He had a little shaky start, but he gathered himself, and I looked at a face of a guy that was not going to lose that game. When they took the lead in the fourth quarter, you had to see his face. We're not going to lose this game. And I'll tell you what, to me, there's been, again, what does a single player mean to a team? There has been, to me, nobody more valuable to their football team than Dak Prescott has been to the Dallas Cowboys. And that's our wrap-up, partner.
All right, my man. Well, Chester, thank you, my friend. We covered it all. We covered it all. We look forward to next week. We'll see if there's progress or regression.
Well, the funny thing about next week, Bobby, all we got is the championship games. College football now is winding down, so we're getting ready for that part.
All right. Chet Parlavecchio, our man. Monday wrap-up. Thank you, friend. We'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK, will return. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by a true friend of the vets, John Basiliga, featuring today his first company, his biggest company, Eastern Roofing Systems, the premier roofing contractor for institutional, commercial, and other huge buildings, industrial, in the entire eastern United States. Guess what? They bring that buying power and that expertise to you because they're headquartered here in Northeast Pennsylvania, to your house, to your small building. Eastern Roofing Systems. John Barilla, a machine mechanic. He enjoyed riding his Harley. He was just 64 when he passed on on November 7th. He was from Fishing Creek Township. Born in Shamokin, 1961. He was very proud of his service to our country in the U.S. Army as a motor transport specialist. He was a longtime sewing machine mechanic, working at various sewing plants before they began closing. He retired from the former David J. Thompson Mailing Company as a machine mechanic. He enjoyed riding his Harley with family, long trips, day trips. He loved vegetable gardening, tomatoes, cucumbers, green peppers. He loved his animals, dogs, cats. He's survived by his loving wife of 13 years, Michelle, his daughter, his son, his grandchildren, his step-grandchildren and stepchildren, his sisters. In addition to his parents, he was preceded in death by his first wife, Fay Ann. John Barilla, our veteran this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Eastern Roofing Systems.
Thank you, Bob. Now it's time for the Storm Tracker 16 forecast, brought to you by meteorologist Joe Snedeker. For today, sunny and breezy with a high of 34 degrees. Increasing clouds tonight with a low of 27. Snow starting early tomorrow. Could be heavy at times. 3 to 6 inches are possible. Snow ending by the afternoon and a high of 32. Partly cloudy tomorrow night with a low of 25 degrees, and then partly sunny on Wednesday with a high of 32. 35 degrees right now here at WILK AM and 103.1 FM. Time to get back to the Bob Cordaro Show on WILK.
The Eagles, Murph tells us this date, 1972, they released their hit, Peaceful, Easy, Feelin'. Not feeling, feelin'. Hey, Excavator Guy lets me know that he'll be taking my show international on the Odyssey app to Turks and Caicos. Love it. Thanks, Excavator Guy. Looking forward to make sure you text or something in so we could do a shout out. Good stuff. Hey, Rob Bresnahan received an endorsement from the IBEW Local 163. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So real working people, not the phonies, real working people are endorsing Rob Bresnahan. I'm very heart-warmed by that. Yeah, somebody, and I missed this. I didn't see the text. It said, ask Chet if the Steelers should fire Tomlin. I know our guy Jake thinks so, but somebody else texted in on a different subject, obviously. Democrat Party needs to be totally dissolved. There's nothing good left. Massive fraud in the state of Minnesota is a perfect example. The Democrat Party needs a new common sense leadership. They really do. They truly, truly do. It's just awful. And scary, actually. Actually scary. But thanks to IBEW Local 163 for endorsing Rob Bresnan. That's good. It's important, too. It is important. Who's on the side of people who work for a living? Not the lunatic left, not Paige Cognetti. Just ask the people who work for the city of Scranton that. And I don't mean her show jobs. I'm talking about the people who actually do the work. DPW, the cops, the firemen. That's who I'm talking about. All right, let's go to Mike from Bloomsburg on the Dem Party. How are you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Just finishing putting up some lights outside and getting ready to go pick up my grandson and have a little fun with him.
Nice.
Now, I just caught the win there that the IBW recommends voting for Rob. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, that just tells you how bad the Democrat Party is, because all of my life I was an IBW member, and I don't ever remember IBW recommending anybody but a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And that just goes to that is a real.
I think I got
right
an endorsement for re-election, but from them. I think I did.
Good. That's good.
Well, it's a great union either way. It doesn't even matter if they endorse me or not. You know, it's a great union.
Definitely, yes. Now, what I recalled about is I want to say the Democrats. I would say they're very controlled. They have command of their party members.
Yep.
And they do a good. They go in lockstep. Okay, but I think we really have to ask the question: what is their goal? What is their goal? What are they trying to accomplish? And I think the way they want to run things is they want to, they have all these blue cities that just vote blue, and there's a big dependency class there in many of them, and they have control with the NGOs and all the money slush fund running around there. I think what they want to do is they want to drag the rest of the country down to that level, and then they have got it. It's basically that's how the leftists take over.
But not for them, though, Mike. Not for the leaders. They've discovered a system where people who can accomplish nothing, who can finish nothing, who can create nothing, can achieve. And that's socialism. That's big government. You don't have to do anything.
That's right. I did not want to use the S word, but that is their goal, to turn this entire country into a crap hole like so many other countries in the world. That, you could name them for me, Bob, if you wanted to. Most people know what they are. Nobody in this country is relocating there on purpose. Okay,
yep. We played that clip. Yeah, none of them are going anywhere that hate this country. They're not leaving and going anywhere. Phonies.
That's right, because they think that the Democrats will do socialism better here than those countries, but it doesn't work that way. I know it, you know it, and the American people need to understand that.
And couldn't be quick enough. I'm telling you. Thank you, Michael. Hey, we got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll return. That's Luciano's song. Vanilla Ice. It was a phony, but an enjoyable one. This date, 1990, had the number one hit in the UK with Ice Ice Baby. The opening song, Murph tells us, exactly the same as Queen and David Bowie's hit Under Pressure. And apparently a settlement was agreed upon between the parties. We're going to finish with Wham's Last Christmas. That's a good song. This date, 2008. It was the most played festive track over the last 5 years. These last 5 years. You'll hear it everywhere. Last Christmas by Wham. Hey, tomorrow we're going to have Rick Bigelow. The Chozon Reservoir, Korean War. Amazing. Somebody texted in, it's easier to make everyone unhappy than happy. To lower standards than to raise them. You're right. Somebody says, LTS, a Plymouth lunatic has a GoFundMe on Facebook for an illegal who's being deported. You can't make it up, says Kim. I know. Somebody else, Bob, your guy Chet is a Notre Dame hater. I sense a little resentment there. And Barry from Plains says, Notre Dame's just playing the system the NCAA laid out. I'm with you there. I'm a nominal, not rabid, but a nominal Notre Dame fan. But that's okay. Somebody says, I think local 81 IBEW in Scranton should endorse Rob Bresnan also. I agree 100%. I hope they do. Yeah, guys, we talk about where this political party's going, and I mean, they're damaging the nation. They really are damaging the nation, the Democrat Party. They've got to replace these bums. I say it over and over again. I mean, you're talking about, I mean, think of it. Nancy Pelosi, Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, AOC, Jasmine Crockett. I used to say this like the bar in Star Wars. They're worse. That's an embarrassment of the bar in Star Wars. Hey, we got a 30 seconds left, but our man Bill from Pittston's here on the Stegmeyer. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. How about you? You sound great.
Thank you. Fire away.
Yeah,
We got only a limited amount of time, my man.
Gotcha. I'll keep it quick. Anyway, I went to the historic married Stegmeyer Mansion on Friday.
Oh, I love it.
It was, you didn't hype it enough. And you hyped it really good.
Yeah.
It was just spectacular, from the service, from the valet, to the service there, the seasoning, the presentation of the food, the way everything was seasoned. I came in there with high expectations, and it exceeded it. And then to take a walk around the mansion, we had the ribeye for two. It was just impeccably prepared. And then
that's like a Fred
cheesecake.
Flintstone steak.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I think it was Brontosaurus, but it was good. It was excellent. So you can't plug that place enough. I can't wait to go again.
Ah, well, good. I'm happy to hear that. And I'd say this. I go to people that I want to sponsor the show that I believe in, not the other way around. So that's one of John Basilic is one of the guys I went to and said, John, I'd love to associate you with my show, and the Stegmeyer Mansion is just one of their great places. So it's good to hear.
Yeah, I want to try some of the others. I'm really looking forward to it.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Good way to end the show. Appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, take care.
All right, Bill from Piston. Hey, my Bacardi Jewelers watch tells me it's noon, which means, sadly, we have to go. God willing, I'll be with you tomorrow morning at 9 or thereabouts to do another edition of this great program and it's only great because of you, not me. So Sue Henry show's next. Rob O'Donnell show after that. God willing, I'll be with you. We'll see how it goes, right? But for now, we've got to gavel to a close this meeting of the Club for Common Sense and tell you all adios and have a great afternoon.